And I've not been doing videos lately much, have I? Well, I've not done one in ages. I can't remember how long it is. Just been the same old bollocks, same old bollocks. Leicester is left in lockdown, and now Leicester's out of lockdown, I think. But today they've released new measures. Really cannot stand one thing that's happened in 2020. I've learnt to detest the word measures. Can't stand it. Anyways, they've released new measures. One of which, right, is 6 months into the pandemic, they're now going to make people in shops wear face masks. Now, obviously, these people have worked in the shops for 6 months, including when the death statistics were up there. And you remember right back in the beginning, in March, just have a little bit of a lockdown, just to be on the safe side, to flatten the curve. And the curve has not just flattened, it has basically gone to nothing. Like, people aren't dying from this anymore. You know, like, well, obviously people are dying all the time. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I had cause to go to my local hospital, the Leicester Royal Infirmary, with my daughter, who was heavily pregnant at the time. And I wasn't allowed to go in with her, but I could walk through the hospital. Practically deserted place, like literally hardly anybody there at all, right? The restaurants were shut down. There were just like a couple of people milling about. Hardly anybody in there to be seen. Shut down A&E. Just got a porter cabin out the front that, like, you had to queue on your feet at accident and emergency. You had to stand and queue to get into this porter cabin to be seen, which I just thought was absolutely atrocious for a start off. Anyways, that's by the by. But like literally, it wasn't this hub of disaster that we've been told, you know, has been going on. Like literally, what they're telling us and what the proof shows are two completely different things, right? Now, so I don't know what the statistics are now, but on about the 15th, 16th of September, they published that no people had died in Leicester this September from COVID-related, coronavirus-related deaths. Not actually died from it, died after being tested positive with it, which is what it means. Now, bearing that in mind, you'd think that things would go back to normal, wouldn't you? But no, we've got new, stricter measures coming into place. Even though the world should be going back to normal, it's not. We're being, basically now they're putting curfews on pubs, they put curfews on parks, they're introducing COVID marshals. This is down the road from me, Oadby and Wigston. Introducing COVID marshals and basically putting a curfew on parks. In the same month that they've said there have been no deaths anywhere in Leicester. Right? Okay. And now it's like, it's either from Thursday, like what Bojo said today. There are new measures coming in on Thursday, new measures coming in on Monday, right? Because obviously, these next 2 days don't really matter. You know, like in 2 days, shit's going to ramp up. Coronavirus is going to come out the woodwork and attack you all, right? But it's the muzzling up the shopkeepers that is really retail staff rather, that is particularly irked my goat, because these people, when we were in the middle of pandemic, right, a pandemic, and I use it in air quotes because we just need to research what a pandemic does. The other day, I ran out of books, right? Reading a particular series of books. I'm sorry, I do tangent and I do apologise. But I just want to mention this little beauty, brain eaters, right? 3 people were subjected to this. They accidentally sprayed them with these little things that crawl into your brain, make you go mad and tear people to pieces and whatever. Little creatures. They were accidentally sprayed. 3 people. These 3 people got into the brain, sent them batty, killed other people. These lovely little boils come out, poof, that's like the spores, you know, like when mushrooms give off spores. This is like how the disease spreads. Literally, if you breathe that in, well, it's not if you breathe it in, if you've got a cut on your skin or something like that, first of all, it gets all itchy and agitated. Then you come down with flu-like symptoms, get better. Basically, a week after the initial exposure, you go crazy. These things like eat your brain, hence the title, and send you batty. The process continues again. It spurts out. People get it in cuts, like if you cut yourself shaving, that kind of thing. And it worked. They don't actually use the word pandemic in this book, right? I think they do say epidemic, but basically these 3 people, the spores got out, they infected another lot. So a week later, a couple of dozen people did exactly the same thing. In a couple of months, there were 14 million dead. That is how a pandemic works. Just look at it. I still mean to look at that thing on Netflix. But basically, one person infects other people, they infect other people. People should be dropping like flies. It's been 6 months. Instead, you will talk to people, and still you're hard pushed to meet anybody that's even had it, let alone died. Like I've said before, I know of people who've died of other things and been put down as a COVID death. That isn't a pandemic when you have to lie about the figures. Back to the shop workers. So all these people have been mingling with everybody, not wearing masks for 6 months, and the curve has gone right down, literally there, right? There is no curve. It went up like that and back down again, and we're on a level playing field. There is no panic to be had. That's not how a pandemic works. It would go up and up and up and up until literally everybody's getting it, and you can't find people that have it. Now, I do talk to people in my local supermarket, and I was talking to one man once. I think I've said this on a previous video, and I said, do you know anybody who's had it? Oh yeah, one of us had it. Oh my god, oh, it was awful. He had to have a fortnight off work. Deadly pandemic, deadly virus. I had to have a fortnight off work for it. Not dead, went back to work. Like, I've spoken to other people who were like, it's a big bag of bollocks. It's a big bag of bollocks. We don't even get people coming in that are ill. I've never heard anybody having it. I've not been ill. Nobody else I know has been ill. And these are the people who've been in the thick of it. And now they're going to mask them up, make them work all of their shift, not being able to breathe properly, breathing in mould spores, breathing in their own carbon dioxide. And literally, when that happens, people are going to start dropping like flies again. Not with death, you know, like they're not going to explode all over the show, you know what I mean? But it still remains that the people that are dying whilst they have coronavirus are mainly old people, right? That is going to come in. And it's going to be made far worse because people are masked up. Now, shop workers, who are the people who, you know, like literally meet everybody, are the perfect people to point out what a bag of bollocks the coronavirus, the whole of 2020 has been, because they've had to work through it. Even when people were self-isolated and could only go out once a week for essential supplies, they were meeting those people once a week for their essential supplies and didn't drop like flies. Sorry. Literally. And they could say about it, but can't say no now because they're not going to be able to have their faces out. People aren't allowed to smile at each other anymore. Like, literally, people aren't allowed to speak. And why? Why? When there's nothing deadly out there, touted as a deadly pandemic. And if it was a deadly pandemic, 6 months on, we would know that. It's, you know, like, we've got flu jab season coming up. I get offered my flu jab every year because I've got MS. Never have taken it. Never am going to take it. Don't want to be embalmed when I'm dead. You're not putting formaldehyde in me while I'm alive. Sorry. That's just one reason. And like, I think the time for the first lot of injections that they were giving out has gone. So people are now going to start getting the flu. And it is coming up to flu season. We're coming, I think today's the first day of autumn. The temperature has changed. People are coming down with coughs and colds. People are fearful of people with coughs and colds because they tell us it's a deadly disease. We don't see it's a deadly disease. They tell us it's a deadly disease. If it was a deadly disease, we'd know about it without them having to tell us on the telly. We would know we'd got it without having to have a test. But yeah, so that's about it. It's just bollocks. Why? There's not really much point in giving me opinion on it because, like, you've got this huge divide now between mask wearers and non-mask wearers. Now, I'm a non-mask wearer. I refuse to mask up. If, however, I come down with a cold, I will wear a mask out of respect for my fellow man. Not because I'm told to by the government, because I don't want to make anybody ill. Making me go out with a mask on when I'm perfectly healthy and there's nothing wrong with me is utter bollocks. Telling me that I can't speak to people, that I can't stand next to somebody and having a conversation when we're both perfectly healthy is utter bollocks. But measures, they pull something out of their arse. Like we've started now where they just go cases. Because if they mention the deaths, people will go, what? What? Like what? You know, what's going on? Still don't know what's going on. Probably, well, hopefully one day we will find out what is the actual agenda behind it, because it's not healthcare. It is not healthcare. There are people dying every day that do not need to die. There are people killing themselves because they can't make their numbers add up and feed their kids. There are people battering their kids. There are people who are literally at their wit's end. There are people who are dying from not being able to have proper healthcare because they've shut down the fucking hospital services. You can't get an appointment with the doctors. They're not doing face-to-face checkups. People just aren't going. And that was blatantly evident when we went to the hospital. There was barely anybody there. People aren't going because they're told that if they do go, they're going to die of COVID. So they're just not bothering. People are scared to leave their houses. It isn't sane. There is no sanity in this. Whatever it is that they're doing it for, it is not for our benefit. And that is as glaringly obvious as you can make anything.